rise and shout. Once again, it's time for What's Trending. And we go right back to BYU football, Dave. 4-4, 3-game losing streak. Have we really come to this point where BYU and their bowl eligibility may be on the line in tomorrow night's game? What do you think? Does BYU's bowl eligibility hinge on a win or loss tomorrow night against East Carolina?
Feels like it. It feels like it because they don't know who they are. They find themselves, especially early in that game, and then all of a sudden you beat East Carolina, then you got a shot at beating Boise State. They're not world beaters, but they'll beat a team that doesn't know who they are. And then Stanford at the end of the month. So Utah Tech's in there too. They need 2 wins to get bowl eligible. It does feel like, because of their inability to kind of know who they are, that all of that self-identity resurrection stuff rides on tomorrow night.
Now, based on the Football Power Index from ESPN, it is clear that the ECU game is the most winnable of the remaining 3 FBS foes. And it's because BYU's playing at home, where they've been way better. It's a night game. We've chronicled that ad nauseum, how much better BYU has been under the lights. But 56% chance BYU has to beat East Carolina at LaVell Edwards Stadium tomorrow night.
If Boise State and Stanford were playing at East Carolina, I would pick East Carolina to beat those 2 teams.
Absolutely. The Pirates have been so good at home.
Yeah, but they're here, and that's different.
They got to travel the 2 time zones on a short week and play in mid-40s, and maybe that's a weird thing. Couple that with BYU and the confidence that they have when they play at night. I don't know. I feel like it's just...
Throw in Halloween weekend. Just add that in there.
Yes. Please don't dress up as a pirate, BYU fans.
Yeah.
Okay, don't do that.
Johnny Depp can be on Monday.
Has it come to the point where we're that fickle, where it's like, like there's a mental edge to BYU playing at night? I think we've gotten there, Dave. Whatever BYU needs, you go there. Like, if that's what they have to hang their hat on, we don't lose at home at night, great.
The numbers don't lie. It's incredible. It's incredible, the difference between day and night with this football team. And when we do that, we bring the numbers together, and it's like, wow. I don't know how the team feels about that stuff. I don't even know if they chart these kinds of things, but we do, and it's impressive. And you don't want to play BYU at night, especially in Provo.
Hey, you know what?
Look at these.
Look at the defensive effort after dark. I love this. Defense after dark. BYU's giving up just 21 points a game when they play at night. Total defense, 309 yards. Compare that to the other games where BYU is surrendering 531-plus yards per game. Pass defense significantly better by 113 yards per game. And the rush, the yards per rush, over 2 yards per rush better when you're playing defense at night. It's insane, but there's something there.
All those numbers feed the energy in the stadium. You got to give a shout out to The Rock, because at night they've had a few Sprites and a few Cougar Tails, and sugar content is sky high. They're different. Everything's different at night. The Rock, that student section, gets energized and jacked up. We saw it affect how many games? You know, you go back to Arizona State last year, Utah last year, earlier this year. Teams have a hard time playing in that end of the stadium when the Rock's engaged and it's at night. So you got to factor them in as the 12th man, 13th or 14th. Maybe they need 15 this weekend, but I like it because, you know, we grew up with day games, and then all of a sudden night games came around. It's like, ooh, the energy here. I remember the first night game at Wrigley Field. It didn't feel right, but it was cool.
It was special.
And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, we can play in 65 degrees instead of 95 degrees. Let's do that. And then all of a sudden, night games became a thing, at least in our world. And now it's a rarity that you play in the afternoon. You almost have to play on BYU TV to play in the afternoon, like the Utah Tech game at 1:30 coming up November 19th. But, hey, I think thank goodness it's at night.
Sure. Yeah. I know that the time of day and the time of game does not win a game. But my goodness, these statistics are eye-popping. And even under Kalani Sitake on Friday in general, BYU's 8-3 with Coach Sitake at the helm. ECU 5-11 in their last 16 on Friday nights, which is also worth noting, right? And they're playing on the road, and the Pirates, again, as good as they've been, they got a great quarterback, really capable, solid offense. They don't play relatively well away from home.
No.
And they got to come to cold weather.
So all the elements are in place away from the actual combat to favor BYU. Then they kick it off, and someone's got to tackle somebody. Someone's got to catch a ball.
Yes.
Someone's got to make a right play call at the right time, and then that's how you know. But all the elements are in place to help this team help itself.
BYU will become bowl eligible in a de facto sort of way if they beat ECU on Friday night, because they're going to beat Utah Tech.
Right.
They will have 6 wins. You beat ECU, you have essentially guaranteed yourself 6 wins, and you're going to be playing in the college football bowl season.
Beat ECU tomorrow night. You should go beat Boise State, and you should go beat Stanford, because this is the like we talked about earlier. The team that won all those games leading up to Friday night is the same team that's lost the last 3. We just got to get them reminded that
You can
wait a
win.
sec.
You can win a game.
We're BYU, and we're actually pretty good, and so why not go beat those teams? They're not world beaters, but if they lose tomorrow, then well, kind of like what we've had the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Weeping and wailing and mourning and everything's wrong in the world. All it's going to take is a 1-point win tomorrow night where it's like, you know what? I think we're going to be all right.
It's going to be all right.
Let's
5
go
and 4.
Boise.
5 and 4.
Yeah.
You're going to be bowl eligible to beat Utah Tech, and then there is hope restored for sure that maybe BYU can string something together and go and beat Boise State. Confidence is such a fickle beast.
Yeah, and that's what is fascinating about fans, because we're not playing the game, but our emotions are in the game, and our emotions are all week. And even last night, depending on what you were looking at it in the blue-white game, if you were expecting Jimmer Fredette to come out and all those other guys, well, then you left going, I can't believe Jimmer Fredette. We're terrible. We don't have this and that. But if you're looking at, hey, what do we got? It's the start of a new journey with these guys and these personalities. Then all of a sudden you get engaged and you enjoy the ride as a fan. BYU fans in football have enjoyed the ride. But losses are the worst.
I sent out a poll question yesterday to kind of gauge where BYU football fans are mentally, and I gave them 4 options. I said, okay, where are you mentally right now? Are you buying into Kalani like he's going to fix it? BYU's going to go 8-4. They're going to win the back 4 in the regular season. Or are you of the mindset of, whatever, just get bowl eligible? And then there are the options of essentially, I've given up on this season. I'm in the fan transfer portal. And then I'm still mad about Liberty, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So surprisingly, 23% of the responses, and there were a good number of votes, said, I believe in Kalani to turn this thing around, 8-4. And I thought, man, I appreciate the hope and optimism of BYU.
But why not? Why not? We expect him to be 10-2.
And I will say this, I am hanging my hat on his ability in week 2 calling the defensive plays to get his guys right. Even with all the injuries, with all the guys out, the linebacking core is going to look a lot different this Friday night. They're super banged up. Peyton Wilgar, we don't know if Max Tooley's going to play. I get it, but this is week 2 of Kalani Sitake calling the plays and running the show on defense. And when Bronco Mendenhall did that in 2010 and 2014, it typically took a couple of weeks before you started to see the difference in the defense. And I expect that will happen tomorrow night in line with the night game and all of the metrics and all the good stuff that goes along there with playing at home in the cold temperatures. ECU happened to travel 2 time zones, and BYU being historically good on Friday night under the lights.
Just imagine the energy in the stadium if BYU has a 3-and-out on defense.
Oh, man. Oh, my
in the first quarter.
Oh, my goodness.
Think about this. So East Carolina comes out, they got the ball, and they get 3 plays, and then the punter has to come out. That moment alone might be the largest, just because of how it's gone the last weeks, might be the largest applause of the night.
I want BYU fans to cheer as equally loud for a 3rd down stop as they do for scoring points tomorrow night, because 3rd down stops have been few and far between. It feels easier to score points right now for BYU than it does to get a 3rd down stop, which is nuts.
We talked about 23-1 in games after 6 p.m. since 2019. If you just start that fact in 2020, 19-0 in games that start after 6 p.m. local time. We're starting at 6:05 local time tomorrow night. So we got that going for us, which is nice.
We slid the kick time back 5 minutes just to make sure that it's in that
window. If we were ever about to kick out before 6, someone just hit the power, and then we'll just wait a couple minutes and power back up. But there is, the numbers don't lie, and I think it's energy and focus and excitement, which BYU has not had, didn't have it in the Notre Dame game, although the crowd tried to do it. Tried to do it against Arkansas, but once they fell behind, it was just the air left. And then last week was we're still not sure which team that was.
I do need to say this. There were a few people that sent me messages on the social media platforms that said, Spencer, it doesn't matter. When this team is in such a funk, it doesn't matter, the night, the whole thing. It'll be interesting to see if again, this night game dominance is restored, even with a 3-game losing streak and BYU seemingly bottoming out right now.
Well, Hans Olsen's coming up. Let's ask him.
I'm fascinated by this game.
Let's ask him if Friday night felt different for the guys.
I'm so fascinated by this game.
Yeah.
Can't wait for it.
You know, the beauty of these games is they're 6 and 7 days apart. And so by the time you go through the 5 stages of emotion, whether you won or lost, you get back around to Friday, and all of a sudden it's like, it's time for another game.
Yeah, I've reached acceptance.
Let's go.
I'm in acceptance mode right now.
All right, our second big topic on this day, what were impressions of the scrimmage last night? We called it on BYU TV. There was a lot of fun. There was a little energy in the arena. There was a good crowd on hand. It was free. They could just show up, or they could stay home and watch it. And I was so curious to see what all these guys were going to look like.
It was exactly what I expected it to be, which is just defensive chaos, sloppy, a lot of effort, a lot of sprinting up and down the floor, blocked shots, because we've heard about this for the past few weeks and few months, for that matter, from Mark Pope. He loves the length of his team. He loves the speed that they play at. He loves their energy. He says that our conditioning is going to be elite when it comes to, BYU compared to the rest of Division I teams. So it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Just sloppy, chaos, fun, up and down. It was really good. I like the defensive chaos and defensive energy that BYU is going to play with this year. It's not going to be beautiful basketball, Dave.
No, but they showed some full court press, which I like.
It was interesting.
They've got some speed to do it, and length in the arms. Not very tall, but they're long. And you say, what does that even mean? Well, for Foose is 6'5", but when he puts his hands up, now he's 7'1". And then he can jump. So that length really matters, especially in a zone press and just playing basic defense.
Sure. And I want to point out a couple of specific defensive plays in this defensive chaos. There was a scenario, and I happened to be giving a report on Trey Stewart when this happened, talking about pickle juice and Powerade. That's the kind of night it was,
guys were cramping up. They were cramping up, so pickle juice was.
And then Gideon George blocks a shot and then follows it up about a second and a half later and blocks another shot. Yeah. And I just thought, I like this. Again, it's not like the most beautiful style of basketball, but maybe you ask the BYU coaches and they think it's beautiful in the way that it's muddied up. And it's
winning is beautiful.
Absolutely.
I think winning ugly is so much better than losing nicely.
I love the block shots. Dallin Hall, tell you what, I really, really like what he's going to do for BYU basketball. He was the player that I aspired to be when I was playing high school basketball, right? Just the way he plays with toughness defensively, no fear on offense. But he had a sequence where he blocks a shot at the rim and snags that ball, mouth guard in his mouth, down the floor, pull up, transition 3, knocks it down. Super confident player. I love what he's doing along with the other 2 return missionary freshmen, Richie Saunders and Tanner Toulson. They just kind of play with no fear, and the moment's not too big, and I really, really like that. I don't know what the season's going to be, Dave. BYU might win 18 games. They might win 22 games. But I tell you what, it's going to be a battle every time you take the floor against BYU because they will go high energy the entire game.
And fans want to see effort. I think one thing about the Liberty football game is fans hated the effort. It looked like there was no effort. So a basketball team that's going to show effort for what, 35 games or whatever, well, that's must-see TV. I want to see what the guys are going to do tonight. And so you're right. I love that for a lot of those guys, it was the first time they had a BYU jersey on. It was the first time they were playing in front of people since their missions or since their other schools they were at. So it was their first taste of BYU basketball, and I thought that was cool. We got an exhibition game next week, and we'll see how they work their lineup.
Sometimes there is power in playing with unknown expectations. And BYU men's basketball doesn't have a ton of set in stone expectations. We're all kind of just like, well, let's just see what happens. Yeah. And sometimes that can be hugely advantageous.
We do know what it's like to play with expectations that are enormous, even insane. And that's what the football team's doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, you couldn't be referencing BYU football right now, could you?